checked his phone again. Nothing. No calls, no messages, no birthday wishes. Just silence. A silence that didn't feel empty anymore. It felt heavy, like it had been sitting on his chest for hours, maybe days, maybe years. David Parker slowly placed the phone on the table. His fingers trembled slightly, not from illness, not from age, but from realization. Today was his birthday, and nobody had called, not even once. He looked out of the window, cars moving, people laughing, life continuing. And yet, his world had stopped responding to him. But it wasn't always like this. There was a time when silence didn't exist in his life, a time when even the smallest sound in his house felt like music. Dad's home, that voice, used to run faster than his tired body could handle. 2 small children would rush toward him every single evening. One would jump into his arms. The other would hold his hand tightly as if afraid he might disappear. And David would forget everything, the pain in his back, the grease on his hands, the exhaustion in his bones. All of it disappeared in those moments, because to him, home was not a place, it was them. He worked as a mechanic, long hours, low pay, broken tools, and a body that always hurt. But he never complained, because every dollar he earned was for them, not for comfort, not for luxury, but for their future. I don't need anything, he used to say, as long as they are okay. One evening his co-worker laughed at him. You still wearing that same old jacket? David smiled without looking up. My son needs new school shoes. The co-worker sighed. You're too selfless, man. David finally looked up and said softly, No, I'm just a father. That night he came home late, again, tired, exhausted, but the moment he opened the door, the world changed. Dad! 2 voices, 2 little storms of happiness. They ran into him like they always did, and he fell to his knees just to catch them properly, because that was his favorite place in the world, on the ground, with them. Dad, look what we made. They dragged him to the table. A drawing, 3 stick figures, a big one, 2 small ones, and above them, a crooked heart. Best dad ever. David stared at it for a long time. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. Because sometimes love doesn't need words. It just needs silence. That night, after they slept, he stood by their bed, watching them breathe peacefully. He adjusted their blankets, sat beside them for a long time, and whispered, I don't know what future I can give you, but I promise you one thing. You will never feel alone. And he meant it. Every single word. Years passed, and time slowly did what it always does. It takes people away without asking permission. His son grew first. Smart, independent, restless. I got a job in another city, he said one day. David stayed quiet for a moment, then smiled. I knew this day would come. They hugged, but something in that hug felt different. Longer, heavier, final. I'm proud of you, David said. And he truly was, even if it hurt. Then his daughter left too. College, dreams, new life. I'll call you every day, Dad, David smiled. I'll be waiting. And for a while, she did call, every day, then every few days, then once a week. Then, silence started replacing her voice. But David never complained, because he understood something very dangerous. Love makes you patient even when you're forgotten. He still woke up early every morning, made tea, sat by the window, waiting, not for something specific, just waiting. Sometimes he would wear better clothes, as if someone might visit, but no one ever did. One day he called his son, ring, ring. Hello? Dad, I'm in a meeting. I'll call you later. Click. Later never came. He called his daughter. "Dad, I'm busy. Talk later, okay?" Click again. And just like that, his voice stopped mattering. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and silence became normal, until one winter morning, his body gave up. He collapsed in his chair, weak, cold, alone. He tried calling. No answer. Again, no answer. Hours passed. No one knew. Until a neighbor knocked and found him barely conscious. At the clinic, he finally woke up. First question, did anyone call? Silence. The nurse looked away. No one came. That moment, something inside him stopped. Not broke, not cracked. Just stopped existing. He returned home slowly, every step heavier than the last. That night he opened a drawer. Old cards, drawings, letters. Best dad ever. His hands trembled. They didn't forget. They just don't need me anymore. And for the first time, he cried, not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a man who had spent everything and was finally realizing there was nothing left to receive. Then came the day, his birthday. He woke up early, a small hope still alive somewhere inside him. Maybe today. Morning passed. Nothing. Afternoon passed. Nothing. Evening came. Nothing. The phone never rang, not even once. He sat by the window, watching the sunset, golden light filling the empty room. Memories came rushing back, birthday songs, laughter, cake, tiny hands holding his fingers. A tear fell, then another, not because he was angry, but because he still loved them, even now, even after everything. He stood slowly, walked to the drawer, held the old letters close to his chest, and whispered, "They didn't forget me. They just moved on." He sat back down, closed his eyes, and for the first time in his life, he didn't wait anymore, because sometimes love doesn't end. It just stops being returned. And the people you once lived for slowly forget how to call, and by the time they remember, silence has already answered everything. The days after his children left didn't feel like days at all. They felt like something had been removed from time itself. No laughter in the hallway, no footsteps running across the floor, no voice calling, "Dad," just space. Too much of it. David still woke up early every morning, not because he had work to rush to anymore, but because his body had forgotten how to sleep late. Habit is a strange thing. Even when life changes, habit stays loyal. He would make tea the same way every morning. 2 cups. Then pause for a moment, look at the second cup, and slowly pour it back, every single day, without fail, without question. Then he would sit by the window, same chair, same angle, same view of the street, watching life go somewhere else. People walking to work, kids going to school, couples arguing or laughing or holding hands, and David just observing, like he was no longer part of it. His phone stayed on the table, always within reach, always silent, but he would still check it, not once, not twice, many times, as if staring at it long enough might force it to ring. Sometimes he would pick it up, scroll through old messages. "Dad, I got 92%. Dad, I miss your cooking. Dad, love you." Old messages that now felt like they belonged to someone else's life, not his. One afternoon, he sat there longer than usual. The sky outside was grey, heavy clouds, a quiet storm approaching, and inside his house, an even quieter storm. He opened the old photo album again, pages slightly torn, corners folded, smell of time trapped inside paper. There they were again, his children, small, smiling, alive in a way that felt painful now. He traced his fingers over a photo, his son sitting on his shoulders, both laughing, a frozen moment that Time had stolen and refused to return. "Where did it all go?" he whispered. His voice didn't echo. The house didn't respond. Even silence felt indifferent now. That evening, he tried something unusual. He picked up the phone, dialed his son's number. Ring, ring, ring. Then a voice. Busy, fast, distracted. "Hello? Dad?" A pause, a long one. "Oh, hey Dad, I'm in a meeting. Can I call you later?" Before David could answer, the line cut. The word later stayed in the air, floating, unfinished, unfulfilled. David slowly lowered the phone, looked at it, then placed it down very gently, as if it might break. Later. He had started to hate that word, because it meant nothing now. He didn't get angry. He didn't complain. He just nodded to himself, like he understood something painful, even though he didn't want to. "I should not disturb him," he whispered. Not because he was fine, but because he had trained himself not to need too much. The next day, he tried his daughter. This time, it rang longer. Then her voice came, breathless, busy. "Dad, I'm in class right now. Is everything okay?" David hesitated. For a second, he forgot what he was going to say. Then softly, "I just wanted to hear your voice." A small silence. "I'll call you later, okay, Dad?" Click. He held the phone for a few seconds after the call ended. Still warm, still echoing with something that used to be love. But later never came. Days started blending into each other. Morning, afternoon, evening, same pattern, same silence, same window, same chair, same tea, same waiting. Sometimes he would talk to himself, not loudly, just small sentences, as if reminding the house he still existed. "I should clean this place. I will cook something later. Maybe they will come next week." But even he didn't fully believe his own words anymore. One evening, a neighbor knocked on his door. "Mr. Parker, are you okay? I haven't seen you outside in days." David smiled politely. "I'm fine." But fine was a word he had learned to use instead of explaining pain. The neighbor looked at him for a moment, then said softly, "You should call your children more." David nodded. "Yes, I will." But they both knew that answer meant nothing. After the neighbor left, David stood in the doorway for a long time, thinking, not deeply, just blankly, like the brain sometimes stops trying to solve what it cannot fix. That night, he cooked dinner for one person, then stopped, looked at the plate, and quietly pushed it away. Eating alone had become normal, but normal things can still hurt. He turned on the TV, turned it off again, turned it on, turned it off. Nothing felt right. Nothing felt worth watching. Eventually, he just sat in darkness, listening to the sound of his own breathing, slow, heavy, present. Then came winter, colder nights, longer silences, deeper loneliness. One night, his body felt strange, weak, shaky. He stood up to get water, but the room tilted slightly. He held the wall, waited, tried to steady himself. "Maybe I'm just tired," he thought. But his body didn't agree. He sat down again, waited. Minutes passed. Breathing became uneven. Phone was right there, on the table, silent as always. He picked it up, tried calling his son. Ring, ring, no answer. Tried again, no answer. His hand trembled slightly, not from fear, from realization. He tried his daughter. Busy tone, silence again. But this silence felt different, heavier, final. Hours later, a knock came on the door, faint, then louder. "Mr. Parker?" A neighbor again. Concerned voice. No answer. The door opened. What they saw was a man sitting quietly in a chair, unmoving, phone still in his hand, screen dim. Call someone, someone shouted. Footsteps, chaos, movement. But David was already somewhere else, not gone, not fully here, just absent from the moment. At the clinic. Lights were bright, voices distant, machines beeping, and then silence again. When he opened his eyes later, the first thing he saw was a wit. The room in the clinic was too white, too clean, too quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful, but uncomfortable. David blinked slowly, staring at the ceiling as if it didn't belong to him. His body felt heavy, but not in pain anymore, more like it had been switched off without permission. A nurse adjusted something near his bed. Machines beeped softly in the background, a rhythm that meant life was still happening, just not fully for him yet. He turned his head slightly. His voice came out weak, almost lost. Did my children call? There was a pause, a long one, the kind of pause that already answers the question before words do. The nurse avoided his eyes. No one came, sir. Silence, not the kind from before. This one didn't sit outside him. It entered him, quietly, completely, like it had finally found its place. David didn't react loudly. No shock, no anger, no tears at first. Just stillness, as if his body had decided it didn't know how to respond anymore. He slowly turned his face back to the ceiling and stared. For a long time, somewhere in the distance, a machine beeped again, life continuing, time continuing, everything continuing, except something inside him. And in that moment, something inside David changed, not broke, not cracked, changed, like a door closing forever. He remembered their voices. Dad, I'll call you every day. I miss your cooking. Love you, Dad. Words that once meant everything now felt like echoes from a life that didn't exist anymore. And for the first time, a thought came to him, not loud, not emotional, just quiet and sharp. They are alive, just not with me anymore. That thought didn't hurt like pain. It hurt like truth. And truth is heavier than pain. Days passed slowly after that. He was discharged, returned home. But home didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a place that remembered him, but no longer needed him. He walked inside slowly. Everything was the same. Chair, window, table, phone. But everything also felt different, like memory, without meaning. He sat down, didn't turn on the TV, didn't make tea immediately, just sat, listening to silence that had now become familiar. Then he stood up, walked to the kitchen, made tea, 2 cups again, paused, looked at the second cup, and this time, he didn't pour it back immediately. He just stared at it, long enough to realize he was still living inside habit, not hope. Slowly, he poured it back, like always. But something inside him didn't follow the routine anymore. Something had already stepped out. That night, he opened the old drawer again, the one he avoided without knowing why. Inside were small memories, drawings, cards, letters, time frozen in paper form. Best dad ever. He picked one up, held it closer. His hands trembled slightly, not from age, from memory. They didn't forget, he whispered. A pause, then softer. They just stopped needing me. And that sentence didn't feel like complaint. It felt like acceptance. Outside, wind moved gently against the window. A normal night for the world, but not for him. That night he didn't sleep, not because he couldn't, but because sleeping felt like skipping time, and he didn't know what he was waiting for anymore. Morning came, slow, unwanted. He sat by the window again, same place, same view. But something inside him had changed permanently now. He no longer picked up the phone every few minutes. He stopped checking it constantly. Not because he stopped caring, but because caring had stopped giving answers. Days turned into a quiet pattern again. Wake up, sit, think, remember, repeat. But now, even memories started hurting differently, not sharp anymore, just hollow. One afternoon, he found himself talking out loud, very softly, as if someone was still listening. I did everything I could. A pause. I think I did. Then silence. Because even he wasn't fully sure anymore. He looked around the empty room, and for the first time, he didn't imagine them coming back. That hope disappeared, quietly, without drama. And that was the real breaking point. Not crying, not shouting, but stopping to expect. Because expectation is the last thread that keeps people tied to pain. And David had finally let go of that thread. Still, he didn't stop loving them. That was the strange contradiction. He loved them the same, but without direction, without response, without return. Love that no longer had anywhere to go. Days before his birthday, something subtle changed in him. He became quieter, even for himself. Less talking, less moving, more just existing. He cleaned the house slowly, not because it was dirty, but because routine still needed to be followed, even when meaning was gone. He placed the phone on the table again, looked at it longer this time, as if trying to remember what hope used to feel like. But nothing came, not even expectation, just stillness. And somewhere deep inside him, he already knew tomorrow would be just like today, and today was just like yesterday. No difference, no surprise, no call, still. He circled the date on the calendar, birthday, a small circle, almost meaningless now, but still marked, still acknowledged. He didn't smile this time, just looked at it and nodded slightly, like agreeing with something he no longer cared about. That night, he sat by the window longer than usual. The street outside was quiet, lights flickering, life continuing. He whispered softly, "Maybe I was just a phase in their life." A pause, then quietly, "And phases always end." And for the first time, that thought didn't break him. It just settled inside him, like something that finally made sense, not painful, not relieving, just final. And that is where something shifted completely. Because once a father stops waiting, what remains is not sadness. It is emptiness that has learned to breathe. And tomorrow was his birthday, but he didn't know yet whether it would feel like a memory or an ending. Morning came slowly, not like a new beginning, but like a continuation of something unfinished. David Parker woke up early again. Same habit, same silence. But today, something was different. He didn't immediately reach for the phone. For a few seconds, he just sat still, listening to nothing. Then he stood up, walked to the kitchen, made tea, 2 cups again. He paused, looked at the second cup. Longer than usual, his hand stopped halfway, and then he gently poured it back. But this time, there was no emotion in it, just routine. He looked at the calendar, a small circle marked today, his birthday. He didn't smile, didn't frown, just looked and nodded slightly, as if acknowledging something that no longer mattered emotionally, but still existed factually. Outside, the world was bright, sunlight entering through the windows, children shouting in the distance, cars starting their day, life continuing exactly as it should. But inside David's house, time felt paused. He sat by the window, same chair, same position. But something inside him had changed permanently now. Not hope, not sadness, something beyond both. Acceptance. Hours passed. Morning became afternoon. Afternoon slowly turned into evening. And still, no phone call, no message, no vibration, no sound. He checked the phone once, then stopped. He didn't check again immediately. That was new. Instead, he just stared outside, watching people live lives that didn't include him anymore. A man walking with his son, a woman laughing on a phone call, a family entering a house together. Small scenes, ordinary scenes. But for David, they felt distant, like watching someone else's world. His fingers rested on the arm of the chair, slowly tightening, then relaxing, like even his body was unsure what to feel anymore. He whispered softly, "Maybe today," then stopped. He didn't finish the sentence, because even hope felt too heavy now. Afternoon faded, light became golden, sun began to lower. Kind of sunset that normally feels beautiful, but today it felt like time saying goodbye. David stood up slowly, walked to the kitchen again, opened a small drawer. Inside, old cards, drawings, letters. He took one out, a child's handwriting. "Happy birthday, Dad." His hand froze. He stared at it for a long time, then sat down slowly, holding it carefully, not like paper, but like something fragile from another life. A tear formed, but didn't fall immediately. It stayed there, waiting, like even his sadness wasn't sure if it had permission anymore. Then it fell, slowly, quietly, not dramatic, just real. He whispered, "They used to remember." A pause, then softer. "Every year," silence answered. As always, he closed his eyes, and memories came, not as thoughts, but as feelings. "Dad, happy birthday." Laughter, cake, hands pulling him towards a table, small voices shouting at once, chaos, love, life. His chest tightened, not from pain, but from distance between then and now. His eyes opened again. The room was still empty. The phone was still silent. He slowly picked it up, looked at it. No notifications, no calls. And in that moment, something inside him finally settled. Not broke, not collapsed, just stopped expecting. He placed the phone back, carefully, like ending something without saying it out loud. Evening arrived, sunlight faded, shadows grew longer. He sat by the window again, but this time he wasn't waiting. Not really. He was just sitting, existing, breathing. And then he spoke softly, not to anyone, maybe to himself, maybe to the past. "I gave everything I had." A pause. "I hope it was enough." No answer came, and for the first time, he didn't wait for one. Night slowly arrived. The house became darker, quieter, still. David leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes. Not tired, not asleep, just still. Memories passed through him one last time, not painful now, just distant, like watching a movie of someone else's life. And then a final thought came, soft, clear, final. Maybe love doesn't disappear. It just stops being returned. And that thought didn't hurt anymore. It simply existed. Outside, a distant clock ticked. Inside, nothing responded. And somewhere between silence and memory, David Parker stopped waiting. Not because he stopped loving, but because love without return eventually learns to sit quietly. The phone never rang that day, not once, but for the first time in a long time. He didn't check, and that was the real ending. Not abandonment, not tragedy, but realization that sometimes the people you live for forget to live with you, and by the time they remember, you're no longer waiting.